Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel, the Always Work in Progress channel that is always evolving. That's how I'm starting to see it. So real quick before we get started, I just want to mention that and I know I mention this usually at the beginning of every video, however, I'm going to do it again today. My vision, or at least part of my vision for this channel, is to have conversations with everyday people just like you and me. And when I say everyday people, I'm really talking about those of us that are just out there trying to navigate through this life. We're not necessarily teachers or authors or speakers on a particular spiritual subject. But we definitely have our stories and our challenges through this whole life journey that I would like to have shared through this conversation. And I do believe strongly that by sharing our stories, and particularly just being, folks out there, we can really help others. And during this period that we're in of this evolutionary process, I think it's more important than ever before. Plus, by doing this, we're going to discover that we're much more alike than not alike. So if this idea appeals to you, my contact information is right below the video, and I'd love for you to click on that, and let's see where that can go. Okay, commercial is over. So I have a really interesting topic today. I know I say this, I think, a lot of times. Maybe, well, I guess for me to record anything, it has to be interesting to me. But I kind of got a download. What that means is I kind of get information from my guides on things actually oftentimes that I'm struggling with. So this is about that as well, what I'm struggling with. So I'm calling this the idea of what we resist persists. I'm sure you've heard this before. And probably have your own idea of what this means. I've had my own idea of what this means until I got this kind of guidance from my guides. Was that this morning or yesterday? So what we resist persists, right? So how do we kind of begin to understand this in a deeper way? We can get that there's energy out there, and what we're putting our attention on actually stays in our focus, and it just stays in our attention, so it persists. That's one way to look at it. I think that's the way I have looked at it in the past for sure, and it's probably changed through the years. But now what I'm getting is this whole connection to one, what you resist persists. First of all, the question is, who are you? Who is the you that's resisting, right? Well, it's going to be, the false self. Who is the false self? Well, it's a belief that we've made up. We've made up this entity, this character in our movie of this, image, this what appears to be this Susie in my case. And so that's who's resisting something, right? But why are we resisting? That's the question that came to mind. What causes us to resist things? And what it came down to, and I'm putting this out, by the way, these are concepts. This is a broad spectrum. So don't try to put this through the intellect, because it'll take you all kinds of places. We just have to keep it hold it lightly, and let it be a broad spectrum of being able to understand this. And it is a concept, because that's all we can talk about when we're really trying to speak about how life really works, is through concepts. So basically what I was told by my guides is that our lives are made up of beliefs. It's just beliefs, and these beliefs appear to get triggered when something happens out there. And that's where we begin to resist, because we have a belief system that basically we've inherited. We've inherited from growing up as very young children with our family, our environment, our culture. We learned it from teachers, from just, life situations. And so we begin to form these beliefs. And beliefs are not real. They're not true. They're made up, just like the false self. But how do we get there is we have a belief about what's wrong, what's right. That happens in early childhood. It depends on our family and their point of view. And so we begin to inherit, is what I like to call it, because we're not really having a choice as a young child. We're just taking on these beliefs. So the right, the wrong, what's good, what's bad, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, what is being kind, what is not being kind. It's clearly across the board. It's what people have, these the prejudices that we have. Certain groups of people are okay and other groups of people are not. It's a broad spectrum of beliefs, and those of us are different. It's our unique experience, of course, as we grow up in whatever environment, whatever situation that we grow up in. There's the belief that you must get a college degree or you're not going to amount to anything. Or in order to have respect from others, you must do this or that. There's a certain social behavior. That's a belief, right? There's a certain way of just being in the world. That's a belief. There's a belief that uses fear a lot, so fear can become a belief. There's a belief that you must do this at a certain age, or you must not do this at a certain age. I mean, I'm not going to go through this video because that would be very boring to try to list all the beliefs, but we have these basic beliefs that we hold on to every single day. So then when something appears in life, happens, and it happens to click on one of these beliefs, then we start to not want it, so we resist it. I kind of got this picture, this kind of vision when we were talking about how these beliefs work, is that kind of picturing a bunch of storage units, where you might store your extra stuff that you don't have room for in your house, or you're keeping it to move to another house, however that works. But you know what storage units are. And I got this picture of how we have these beliefs, and we have these storage units, and we store our beliefs in different categories, just like you'd store dishes in a box and write dishes, or you'd store glassware and write glassware. Well, we store our beliefs, depending what they are, in these particular storage units, and we then categorize them or label them. So then when life starts to happen and we start to resist something that's happening, what it does is it goes to that particular storage unit, opens the box, and now we're into this thing of, resisting what we don't want, resisting what's happening. Now, again, we have to take this in a very almost loose way, not get too detailed with it on one hand, but on the other hand, this is huge if we can begin to get what's really going on. So as I said, we inherit these beliefs. They're not our beliefs. There isn't one, the false self, it doesn't exist either, but we inherit from our life. We inherit from our families through the generations. So they're not our beliefs. Plus, beliefs are never true. They aren't. It's a belief is just a way of dealing with certain things, or it's the way that we created this false self. It's something that we've learned. There's always a yes and a no to it, or, a good or a bad. Good beliefs are the beliefs, I should say, that are positive. Have a positive belief in, you should always celebrate your birthday. So that's not so much a negative, but it is a belief that keeps you stuck, right? Or it could be the opposite, no, don't celebrate your birthdays because of somebody had a bad experience, me. So that's a way of another type of belief. I mean, these beliefs are all over the place and none of them are true. So what happens when we begin to resist something that's just happening in life, because life just happens, we're the ones, the false self, that interprets it into fitting into our particular belief system. And then from that place is how we react, or what we tend to do when we're constantly we're resisting the situation. And when we're really, involved in resisting something that's happening out there, it just keeps it happening. So, I think one of the common things that happen is we resist our a financial situation. We're not happy with because we have a belief that in order to have a certain lifestyle, first of all, that's a belief, must have a certain lifestyle. And if you don't have the financial backing for that lifestyle, then you're resisting what's happening. And while you resist what's happening, you just continue not to have the finances to have the lifestyle that you want. Now, even what I'm talking about, this is funny, this just came up for me, is I'm talking about a belief not to believe, right? Not to catch the belief. So this is where the thing gets wonky, I guess we could say. But it's a great way, I believe, to start to take the baby steps to release ourselves from this place we keep ourselves. There can be a lot of families have a belief of lack. Like, you're never going to get ahead, everybody else does, the government takes all your money. And it's not to say if these beliefs seem in your mind true or not. It's the practice of using these beliefs to keep us in a limited way stuck. It just keeps us stuck. So the first step is to really ask ourselves, go within, where did this belief come from? Is this a belief that works for me? Is it in my best interest? Now, this is easier said than done because you have to kind of be brutally honest with yourself when you really start to look at maybe a belief that has a strong trigger with you, a belief that you believe so much that it would be very hard to let go of it. And then you have all this evidence of why you believe it and why it's true. You have the circumstances that happen to you, and now you can prove that this is a belief one should have. But when you really begin to start to peel away the pieces to the puzzle that kind of show where we're at with these beliefs, you begin to get a sense of, well, this is a little crazy. In fact, it's almost insane. In fact, this isn't a belief that I had, it's a belief I inherited. I took it on, Just like if you inherit a property, let's say a family member dies but you're the one that's going to inherit the property, and the property's in terrible, terrible shape, and you almost can't even you don't even know how to get rid of it, and you're kind of stuck with this situation. Well, you inherited that. So just like that, we inherit these beliefs. And these beliefs basically make up our lives until they don't. So, from my understanding and all the things I've read and listened to people, etc., when we can finally wake up out of this dream, wake up to who we really are, which is, the higher self, spirit, until then, we're kind of caught in these programs, these beliefs, whatever we want to call them. And so it's up to us. It's not going to happen by magic, so it's up to us to begin to awaken, like out of this slumber of, wait a minute, asking ourselves, why am I believing this? What is this about? And seeing where we can start to poke holes in some particular beliefs and then start to let them go. And particularly when we're resisting something, whatever it is that's going on, we find ourselves in resistance. This can happen 1,000 times a day. I mean, some things are less bothersome to us, so we don't resist. Other things are a big deal, so we really are in resistance. And so we just keep it going through being in resistance. We keep this loop of what we're resisting that we don't want, but it keeps happening, right? Just keeps happening. I have to add here probably, kind of trying to separate what's the difference between a belief and a preference, So we all have preferences, like, maybe, preferring, like right now, I prefer some sunny days in California because we've had more rain than we've ever had since I can remember and since records have been broken. So I really prefer sunny days. It's been cold and rainy here like we've never had. So am I resisting it? Not really, because I get it. I do get that I can't control the weather. But I am resisting on some level each day that shows up so dark and cloudy and rainy, but not a lot. Basically, it's my preference to have a sunny day. Or it could be my preference when what I want to eat. If I'm at a restaurant, what I'm going to pick off the menu. That's a preference rather than a belief. There could be pieces of belief in that, but those are kind of preferences. So they're not something that will continue to resist. In other words, that's maybe the test. Is the preference something that you're saying it's a preference, but you're actually resisting what's going on around this preference? Like, I prefer a sunny day and I'm going to resist the rain. That could happen. Drinking hot water to keep warm. So because a lot of times when I first get these downloads, like I did, I want to talk about them because it's fresh and it's coming for a reason, and my guides want me to talk about them. But on the other hand, I kind of have to work through it to make it maybe understandable. So what we resist is the first thing to look at. So what in your life is happening on a regular basis that you don't want? Does it have to do with money? Does it have to do with the situation you're involved in, maybe at work? Does it have to do with you're trying to get somewhere, do something, and it's not happening, and so you keep resisting every time it's a negative? The list is very long and it's very unique to each of us, so you have to look within yourself to begin to unravel and identify what are the things that you are strongly resisting in your life, and can you see that they're persisting? So the more they persist, the more you resist. The more you resist, the more they persist. Going in circles, right? I mean, when you think of it that way, it almost sounds insane. But that's what's going on. That's literally what is going on. So until we begin to really awaken out of this illusionary experience we're having. We just need to take baby steps in working through this. And right now, you're hearing, not from just me, but if you're listening to anybody on this same path, so to speak, they're all speaking about that we are definitely in the midst of this process of ascension or evolution, whatever you call it. And in going through this, we need to let go and release of all the things that we've been dragging around for all these centuries in 3D, and we need to release them so that we can now move forward into the next dimension, into a life that's so much different than the one we've been living. But we can't take all these beliefs, all of our junk with us. It's a new start, you know? It's like moving into a brand new house and saying, I'm not going to take any of my old furniture with me. I'm going to get rid of all this stuff so I can start new with this new home. It's just like that. So we don't have a choice. We definitely have to release and let go of all these struggles that we have, all these beliefs that we have, that one will no longer serve us in moving ahead and no longer serve us now and is keeping us stuck. So that's really what it comes down to. But for me, the whole idea of beliefs, I just haven't really looked at beliefs in such a deep way to really kind of say, it's like peeling an onion, where did I get that belief? And how is this belief making me uncomfortable now? And how do I struggle with something that keeps happening because I have this belief? And then how do I let go of this belief that seems to be so strongly ingrained in me? And that is by recognizing what's going on and allowing the discomfort of really feeling what this is feeling like. And this is kind of what happens with me, is I start to notice that I'm really in resistance to something, And when I notice it, then it feels terrible. I don't like it. It's an energy running through my body that's very, very uncomfortable. But there's a part of me that knows that this is not true, that this is something I want to let go of. It's stuck in my body somewhere in one of these storage units. And I want to release it, but there's two minds in a way, or two arguments. So one is an argument for it that goes on, the belief, and then there's the argument, but no, wait a minute, this isn't true, and I'm resisting, and that's why it is continuing. So that's kind of how it feels like, at least for me, as I begin to get clear on a certain behavior, or a certain way of being, or a certain way of believing, right? They're all the same. It's all the same. It's all belief. But it just can't happen intellectually. It won't happen intellectually. You can get it at the beginning that way, but it's got to get down to really going within and acknowledging, being brutally honest with ourselves as to where we picked up or inherited a particular belief that we're keeping alive because we think that's what we've been doing, is keeping it alive because it's a belief. And now we're struggling and suffering because it's persistent. It's persisting. It's not leaving. It's staying. So that's a group of beliefs that we really want to get clear on. What is it in my life that I don't want, but it keeps showing up? Well, the first clue is it's the thing we're resisting. So we can start right there, because we do know what we're resisting. We can feel it. We know it. We don't like it, right? And then there's going to be other beliefs under that maybe aren't so persistent that way, that they're not as strong, right? They're beliefs, and they could rule definitely things in our life, but they're not as strong as the ones that we really are resisting and that are persisting, right? So what I suggest is give this a shot. Try to see if you could just go within or write about it. That's what I do a lot, is write about what are these beliefs right now in this now moment that I'm struggling with because I'm resisting. What is it? And if, is it a belief? First ask that. What is this about? What does this mean? And the way we keep it alive is through conversation a lot. Like we share our upset, our trauma, our drama with a friend or a relative or whoever will listen. We share how miserable we are because of this. And then the friend or the relative say, yeah, I'd feel the same way. No wonder. And why does he do that? And he shouldn't and she shouldn't. And pretty soon, you've got this story that is now becoming evident, again, that your belief is correct. And it just keeps us in the loop. So use every bit of awareness that you can to begin to notice what is consistently in your life that you don't want, and then begin to see or look deeper to try to discover what this is that you're believing, and then to see, can you release it? Can you see that you're just in struggle with it? Are you willing to be able to just let it go, right? I know, it can sound kind of crazy, but we're at a time right now where everything could sound kind of crazy because we need to step up our ways of being right now. We need to really get clear on what's working and what's not. We need to really move at a pace that we haven't had to move at before. When I say we need to, ideally we're going to do that, right? So we can move beyond the 3D, beyond this way of suffering through life, and move to a life that is going to be so much more enjoyable, fulfilling. And these beliefs can, depending on how you grew up and how you took on beliefs and how that's impacted you, this can be a very challenging time in that way. It really can. My husband was asking me, because I grew up with this abusive mother, emotionally abusive mother, and somehow I didn't take it on. I didn't take on the beliefs that I was, worthless and shouldn't even be here and blah, blah. I didn't take those on. Rather, what I began to believe is I'm not who they say I am, right? So that was the belief I took on. But many times, and I think many times in my past lifetimes, I took on the sense of I was worthless and that I would be very submissive. And so in this lifetime, I truly believe I came in to really not fall into that victimhood and to really find a way out of the challenge. So the challenge had to exist. I had to have a mother that was going to be emotionally abusive with me so that I could have that test of time and say, okay, am I going to fall into the trap again and become submissive and become a victim, or am I going to take another route? Now, obviously, that wasn't clear in my mind as a child, but it was an intention that I did come into this incarnation with, so therefore I took another route, which had its own challenges and etc. So part of understanding, what we're doing here may help with this belief. You may want to check out, what's been a belief in the history of my family and generations after generations that today's world no longer serves us, but we keep believing it. So there's another way to look at what's really showing up in our life. So I just wanted to touch on this today. It's a big subject. You know, there's ways I know that I could be more clear in trying to explain this, maybe giving a lot more examples, but right now I just wanted to kind of take the top of the iceberg, so to speak, and just kind of do the best I could in trying to get this idea, at least, if nothing else, just the idea that maybe, just maybe, our belief about something is a belief that we inherited and isn't even our belief. If we could even look at that and say, can I let go of some of this or not? You know, there's another exercise. I don't want to go into it today because it's in a whole other video, but I'll definitely share this exercise that we can do when we're starting to look at these beliefs and starting to open up to the idea of releasing. So I'm not talking about releasing yet. I'm talking about just getting some clarity and seeing if we can even begin to take on this idea that maybe this is a belief that I inherited and it's persistent because I don't like it, and can I then begin to just see through it? Don't worry about releasing it right now. Just, can you even fathom this idea? I guess that's really the bottom line. Can you even fathom this idea that maybe it's all our beliefs? They're not ours, they were inherited. And when we have a continuation of something in our life that we don't want, it's because we are resistant and we keep bringing that energy back into us. So I think I've said enough to either confuse you completely, not make sense, or maybe make sense to some, or at least open up maybe the idea of taking a look at this. I don't know. I hope it helps somebody out there, you know. Hang in there with me. Let's see where this goes. In the meantime, just want to remind you to, if you did like this video, please click like and subscribe to my channel. And and comment. You guys, come on, comment. Give me some interesting ideas about what you think, or tell me something that you've had as an experience in terms of this whole idea of beliefs, you know? Let's start to share some of these ideas. I think that would be superb if we could do that. And last but not least, if you'd like to have a conversation with me, as I spoke about in the beginning of this video, about your particular life's journey and your challenges, etc. If you would like to share your story on this channel, have a conversation with me, everyday folks, just people like you and me, then do click below on the contact information and let's get started on that idea. So there you have it. In the meantime, until next time, be kind to yourself. I know I say this every time, but it's a reminder to me as well, because until we can really be kind to ourselves, it's really challenging to be authentically kind, so I can't even say it, authentically kind to others. So until next time, take care. I'm going to use my little clicker to click this off. One day it will just click off in one time, maybe today. See you next time.